Hello, Savannah. Hello, Savannah. Welcome to another edition of Kandily Kesha on this Monday evening. Listen, Savannah. It is election season. It's election season. Over the next couple of weeks, I will be bringing you and introducing you to candidates you will see on the ballot. I cannot express enough how important it is for us to exercise our right to vote. So many people work so hard for us to have this right. And you would be remiss if you did not register, if you did not go to vote. So, without further ado, I want to introduce to you tonight two candidates for elected office, one for our school board president post, and another for our local recorder's court judge post. They're going to tell you all about why they are running, what makes them qualified, their background, their experience, and all things, everything them. And without further ado, I want to introduce you tonight to Mr. Todd Rhodes. Todd, welcome, sir.
Thank you for
And
having
you have to forgive me for calling you Todd or
me.
Coach Todd.
No. Todd is fine. Todd is
That's how I know you. That's how I met you,
yes, man.
and we know that a lot of people know you from your experience with your work, actually, with coaching and your community activism for our youth. So,
Yes,
sir, tell us about the post you're running for, and just whatever you want the people to know.
yes, man. I'm running for school board president of the Savannah Chatham County Public School System. I'm a product of the Savannah Chatham School System. I was born and raised in Tatumville, and I've been to Haven Elementary School. I've been to Bartlett, a little bit of Duran, and I graduated from the Alfred Eli Beach High School.
Oh
So
goodness.
I'm very engaged in
We'll
public
forgive you
school.
for that one. We're going to forgive you for that one.
Hey, my wife graduated from Savannah High, so we go back and forth.
Okay, now you're in. Now you're back in. Okay, let's go.
And so, with that being said, I really care about the school system. I really care. I speak to a lot of kids. I work with building bridges. I go and speak to a lot of kids and mentor a lot of kids and let them know that it is hope, that, they don't have to be another statistic. Even though they messed up and made mistakes, I messed up and made mistakes. But one thing about it, two things for sure: love. People that loved on me, correction is love. And so people that corrected me, told me I was wrong, but they didn't just leave me there. They picked me up. And so for this new generation, I believe we need that passion and we need that fire to come back to our communities, come back into our schools. And because, again, by working with youth and in ministry and everything, I've been to the hospitals. I'm not seeing a kid on life support because he's been shot. I'm not seeing the plug get pulled on a kid because he was pronounced dead, and that bothers me. If that doesn't bother you, then and you're dealing with people, youth, then why are you in it? What are you doing? What are you really doing? And I have my wife and I. We have 10 children, 8 boys and 2 girls, which 2 was already graduated from Jenkins High School, and I have 3 right now at Jenkins High School. One is a senior, the other one's in the 10th and the ninth, and the rest of my children, they are at Hess K through 8. And so my kids are in the public school system.
And these are 10 children, I may add, from the same woman and the same man
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
in 2022.
Yes, ma'am. And they
Y'all
have,
didn't have nothing else to do.
I can tell you what, they are my blessings. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I know, I
If I could
know.
start it all over, I would not, because God has truly blessed me because of me handling my business as far as doing what I need to do as a man, and handling, and my kids. They're such a blessing. My kids, my family, my wife, they are a blessing, and I love them and I want to trade it for the world.
Well, listen. I know personally that your work with youth uh,
Yes,
as a football coach, and of course, you have uh, depth with regard to experience in our school district, just with the number of kids you have alone. But I know that that's what led you to our government, the governing body of our school board. Why the school board president? What is it that drove you to run for school board president?
I'm a person, I like to think outside of the box. We dealing with a different generation. It's another thing to say, okay, look, we know that we have in your house, in our house, in my house, we have policies, which are rules. We have a budget, which are bills. But one thing about it, we can have budgets, bills, and policies and rules. But when you don't have love, it doesn't mix. It doesn't matter. You can have all the money in the world and still not be happy. You can have all the opportunities in the world and still not take advantage. And so, what I want to bring is a hope of inspiration to the school. Because guess what? I was once a kid that was sitting in the same seats that these students are sitting in. I was that kid that wished that I had more people that was engaged and understand the struggles that I had, you know, because a lot of kids now, they need someone, they need a hope, they need to see someone, that's young and that's passionate and have love. That's the most important thing, that love what they do. It's not work to me. I don't have to get paid a 1 cent ever, because my care is for the community, my care is for the people. We want crime to stop. We want our property values to go up. We want our communities to be better. And guess what? You have to have somebody that's in that seat with the right mindset, that understands what's going on. And the most important, to also know what the needs are for each district and each community. Because with better community, we'll be able to stop all this crime. We'll be able to clean it up, and we will have a better Savannah chapter.
You know, and listening to you talk, it reminds me of something that has been stuck and very present in my mind in terms of how we approach these problems, primarily with our youth, because most of our problems in the community are essentially committed by the youth, right? And so when I think about it, Todd, I think about the fact that if you look at who is dying and who persons are who are committing crimes, criminal acts, to include murder, they are essentially products of our school district. If you were to look at the demography of who these individuals are, more than African American men and boys, they are products of our school district, right? If you were to subtract 3 to 5 years, and in some regard, you don't have to subtract any years, these are individuals who are matriculating through our district schools, or individuals who recently graduated or dropped out of or were kicked out of our district schools. Uh, I don't see the problem being solved solely on the shoulders of the school board, school district. I don't see the problem resting on the school board or the shoulders of the superintendent or the schools of which these children come out of. I see a missed opportunity whereby a collaborative effort with our county, with our cities, with our school board. I see an opportunity for a collaborative effort to, as you stated, think outside of the box and come up with creative ways to solve these enigmas that plague our community. So when I look at, and you're right, nothing changes without policies, right? We can talk, and I encourage citizens to always, hello, Savannah, hello to all my guests who are tuning in. I encourage citizens to always challenge the system, challenge the status quo, and to look at things from a different perspective. Don't just listen to the talking heads. Don't just listen to the rhetoric that we as politicians spew to you. But when you give consideration to these facts, Todd, uh, the Board of Education, via ARPA dollars, American Relief Protection Act funds, as a result of COVID, via the Biden administration, is in position to receive $95 million. These funds essentially are somewhat unrestricted in terms of what we can do with them. Now, there are some restrictions, but in terms of the need of our communities, there's so much flexibility. We can almost say that it's unrestricted, right?
Mhm.
And then you look at Chatham County, our county, and so often we let the county off the hook. Time and time again, we do not include the county in the equation when it comes to the problem solving of Savannah. We are a city within the county. That
Mhm.
means the county should be responsible for us, right? Um, Chatham County received $55 million. The city of Savannah, 60 million, right? So it's over $200 million has been allocated to this community. Half of each of those allocations for those governmental entities is already in the coffers of those uh, entities. It's already in the bank. Over the next 2 years, the other half will be deposited. I, as a sitting official for the city of Savannah, didn't know that the money was actually in the bank until months later. So, what I want to encourage our citizens to do, and if successful, uh, I want to encourage you and everybody else who is in position for the school board to drill down to find out how those dollars are spent and to ask the question, why aren't leaders? Why isn't the president of the Board of Education, the county commissioner, and the mayor of Savannah, why aren't they in a room talking and discussing how is it that we can come up with some response to poverty, homelessness, housing affordability, crime, or some response to eradicating some of this balance that we have with our youth, right?
Right.
And so I know that you were very instrumental in leading the charge and advocating and lobbying the city of Savannah for support for our recreational teams. Never in the history of the city of Savannah have we received so much resource that we're receiving now. It's still not enough, but congratulations to you and the other coaches who led that charge.
Thank you.
But can you give some thought, or are you following me when I
Oh,
say this is a missed opportunity?
absolutely. See, this has always been what you asking has always been on my mind because me, we're working with kids and coaching kids and mentoring kids and being involved and engaged in these communities. I see where the city, the county, and the school board work against each other. Keep this in mind. We know this and we learned this in church. I learned this as a little boy. And when I used to hear this, it didn't make sense to me when I was younger, but now that I'm older and I understand, it makes a lot of sense. It says a house divided will not stand. So we're seeing in our communities a place that's divided because we're not standing. And so when we recognize that, think about it this way. The kids that are in the public school system, I would say personally, 98.9% of those kids participate either in the City of Savannah Parks and Recreation or Chatham County Parks and Recreation. And these are kids that's in our public schools. So why aren't we not working together? Because say for instance, all of us have some type of resource that we can bring. The youth coaches, they have the kids. And if they have the kids, they have the what? The parents. The school have the kids. And if they have the kids, then they have the parents. But what we don't have is the buildings, the facilities, the places to do after school programs and stuff to keep these kids engaged and out of trouble. So if we all work together with our communities and we listen to the communities, listen, because another thing is this too. How would you know about something that you've never been to or you don't understand? That's why I'm running too, because you have somebody who don't mind going in the neighborhoods that nobody don't want to go to. You have somebody right here that don't mind lifting up the child that everybody gave up on. See, that's what I focus on. Now, hooray to the kids that's doing good that don't need all that. There's some kids that don't need that. They're focused, they're blessed, and they charge up, they're ready to go. but I believe in basic training. I believe in all, taking care of all, focusing on the ones that need the extra help, to get them caught up and to get them back. And that's what our youth need to see. That's what our youth need. They you know, they see all kind of stuff. But what they need to see is somebody who cares and who understands and love them where they at and be a living testimony to them to show that they can do anything that they want to do. So with the city, the county, I'm willing, Lord see fit for me to get that position on May the 24th. I guarantee you I will do everything in my power. And Ms. Kesha, you have this recorded. This is on the record. I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure the relationship between the community, the parents, the faculty and staff of the school system, the board has a relationship. We all working together for the benefit of the ones we say we supposed to love and we care for.
And so I think you just essentially summed up my next question, which was, a lot of times we just kind of throw out these titles and attach names to them. And while our electorate is certainly educated, plugged in, and knowledgeable, can you tell those who may not know exactly what is the role of the school board president?
The role of the school board president is to make policy, also the budget, handling of the budget to set the agendas, and also to the hiring and firing of the superintendent.
Okay, so going in, do you foresee any big challenges, or are you looking for opportunities? Are you looking to just kind of do an assessment, a lay of the land, or what are we looking at going in?
My first step going in is to learn. I'm a student. Even right now, myself, I'm a student right now at Liberty University. I'll be finished up in spring of 23. I can't wait. Have my bachelor's. But one thing about it, two things for sure, I'm a student. You know, I'm gonna give this testimony here. When I went and got my CDLs, all the women Carter, I didn't know how to drive a stick. I never drove a stick shift a day in my life. But I never forget the instructor that I had. Her name was Miss Evelyn at Savannah Tech. And what she did was she pulled on the highway on 95. And it was three of us in that class that was in the truck. And I sat there and she said, Rhodes, get your behind up here in the driver's seat. And I said, I didn't say nothing. I was like, man, this lady is crazy. I'm not about to get in this seat, man. Because my instructors, they was old school and military. I had A.D. Montgomery and Mr. Ted Pinckney. So they was like, you killed my family? I'm going to come back and I'm going to get you. I'm going to get yours because you better drive safe. So anyway, she said, Rose, get up here. I still didn't move. I was froze. But what she did was she pulled out her CDL and she put it back behind me like this. And she said, I got mine. Ain't you trying to get yours? You better get your butt in the seat. And that made me move. That made me move to get into that seat. And so
she did that while she was riding in the truck with you.
Yeah, she was in the passenger seat.
Yeah, she's crazy.
But I'm glad she's crazy because it blessed my life by her being crazy, you know. And what it did was it made me step out of my comfort zone,
right?
And it made me get into something to learn. And when I see that I did it, I was safe. I kept the truck between the two white lines. Hey, I was good from there. And so I say that to say this: in any situation, as long as you have the right attitude, you can learn anything. I can learn policy. A police officer can learn laws. I can learn budget. I know budget. I got 10 kids and a wife. I know how to budget. Trust me. But the thing is, you cannot teach passion. You cannot teach heart. And that's something that I have. That's what I'm bringing. I'm bringing passion. I'm bringing heart. It's not all about just budget. It can't be just all about policy. It can't be just about just the hiring and firing of a superintendent. You have to love people. You have to meet people where they at. You have to be accessible to people. And you have to be consistent in my thing. Reliability, accountability, consistency, and equality for all. That's what my platform is, and that's what I'm sticking to.
Good. Well, listen, I definitely have respect for that. I can tell you for sure that there is nothing like just following the path that's set before you. And when you are having to go at it blind, not having the experience and just trusting that, I often say that the will of God will not send you. Well, the grace of God cannot keep you. And so with that, I want to give you a final opportunity to just kind of clear the air. or to acknowledge anything that you want to say by way of your parting words that you have not said before, or if you've been misquoted or didn't get a chance to get that last word in at a debate. I want to give you space before we introduce our next candidate for Recorder's Court, Mr. Huffman.
Okay. I am I am the president of the Savannah Royal Lions Youth Organization that was founded in 2014. I do have experience as far as on boards. I'm on the boards for the Savannah Royal Lions Youth Organization, and I also served on the City of Savannah Parks and Recreation Board for 3 years. So I understand how the way the board works. I understand agendas and the way how it flows. Once again, Savannah Channel, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to be that student, just like our kids are, our youth are, our students are. They are students, and so I'm willing to be that student to learn. And you know what? And have the right attitude. I'm not bought. I'm not sold. None of that. I would stand for any. I would stand on my 10 toes before I fall. I promise you that. So on May the 24th, please remember Rhodes. Remember Todd Rhodes. I'm gonna do everything in my power to fight for our youth. And let's just say, God see fit for me not to get in that position. It's not gonna change with me. I'm gonna continue to fight. I'm gonna continue to be for this youth, and you all gonna continue to see me out in the community. You're still gonna see me on WTOC. You're still gonna see me on WJCL, WSAB, because I do this. I don't do this just because I decided, hey, I want to run for office. Let me, put on my makeup, or let me put on, let me shave, and let me come out here and act like I care. No, I truly, really care. Like that's no faking that. That's just real. And I care about these kids. I don't care what color they are. Let me tell you something, and I'm gonna close on this. I've been blessed by every race there possibly is in this earth that God made. I had people that poured into me and blessed me. So why would I just not care about all or care about one particular group? That's not me. That's never been me. I love all people, and I'm for all people. So regardless of the results, just know that I'm genuine, I'm passionate, I love my community, and I'm also asking for your help and your support on May the 24th. And please, early vote, beat the lines. If you can do it, get out there and go vote. Savannah Channel.
And when is early voting?
Early voting started today. It started today, actually.
Okay.
Yes, and it was a good crowd. It was a good crowd when I passed by. I seen a good crowd. So please keep voting.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, listen, I think you answered my last question in terms of what sets you apart from other folks who are in the race. And if you don't have anything to add there, I want to thank you for stopping by Kandily Kesha and sharing your platform with us. Is there any information you want to share in terms of people finding out more information about you or how to contact you? And certainly feel free to put that in the chat after you are offline.
Awesome. Yes, my website is www.rhodes4youth.com. Also, too, my email is www.rhodesforyouth@gmail.com. My telephone number is 912-306-5573. Call me, text me, email me. I'm here for the people. I want to continue to keep that door open. If elected, I'm definitely going to keep that door open because I want to be engaged. I want to know what's going on in the community. And that way, therefore, there can be transparency. I can know what's going on. We can know what's going on because it's a team effort. And by me coaching, I push team effort. I know team effort. I know how team works. So I'm ready to work with the team. I'm ready to back and support in any way that I can. And thank you, Alderwoman Kesha. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to come on the show. And I pray that God continue to bless you and keep you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, take care, sir.
You too.
Okay, now I want to introduce you to the future judge of Recorder's Court, Mr. Joe Huffman, is joining us today. Look, I don't endorse court candidates, so that may have been for prophetic, me saying future judge, because you do have opposition, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I try very hard to be impartial in this world. As a newly elected individual myself, I don't feel like I have the political capital to just kind of throw out there and throw around. I taught myself as a public servant and not a politician. So forgive me for not playing the game. But I will say that you have impressed me with your arrival. I've heard a lot about you. I have family and friends who worked in juvenile court and have experienced your presence on both sides. And the one word that stands out is fairness. He's fair. And so, without further ado, I want to give you the opportunity to let my audience know who you are. Let us know what your platform is, why you are running for this elected office, and what sets you apart from the others who are in the field.
Well, first and foremost, Alderwoman Kesha Gibson Carter, thank you for allowing me to come on your platform, this platform, and get out the message that I've been putting out there. This campaign has been long. It's been fun and amazing. And to your credit, every single neighborhood association meeting I'm walking into, you're walking out of. And then it's hard for me to keep up with you. And,
We try.
you can't, you're putting in the hard work. It's noticed. People should appreciate that. I similarly feel the inability, the pain of, as a judge, judicial candidate, even if I wasn't running for office, because I am a judge in some places, I can't endorse candidates. It would come across as biased and inhibit my ability to be fair and impartial. Even the appearance of being unbiased is unbiased, right? Nobody wants a judge they think is not being fair, even if the judge isn't being unfair. So I get that. So Joe Huffman, that's my name. I'm running for Chatham County Recorder's Court Judge. Chief Judge Tammy Stokes, she is on her way to Chatham County Superior Court. She'll be leaving open a seat on Recorder's Court, and I am running to fill that seat. I am not running to fill her position as Chief Judge. That's not how it works. Like Superior Court and State Court, the title or designation of Chief Judge is left based on seniority. So that's not the position I'm running to fill, just the open seat as a Recorder's Court Judge. So who am I, right? I'm a Savannah native. Windsor Forest Elementary School, Durand Middle School on Millsby Lane, Savannah High School, 500 Washington Avenue, and I finished up at the Arts Academy at the same building.
Savannah High?
Yes. I'm not supposed to say the real high because
Cincinnati,
Pennsylvania is still.
Did you say the high?
Well, yeah.
You might just get an endorsement, sir.
Well, only if you're a fan of the Marching Blue Jackets, because that's what I was. So, yes. So after high school, I went to undergrad, got my degree in saxophone performance, came back, and then I felt like I needed direction. I needed to do something. My brother and I, we had this compelling interest to serve and find a way to serve. So we joined the police department. So my brother and I were on the Savannah Metropolitan Police Department for 4 years, loved it. There were things that I will cherish forever. A lot of lessons in how to interact with others, how to serve the community that I gained. A lot of which was already.
Years, do you mind me asking what years did you serve? What 4 years were they?
July 7th, 2007 to July 6th, 2011. July 7th, 2011. So 4 years on the dot.
Those were some tough times.
They were tough. But they, Savannah made it. Savannah will always make it because the people in Savannah will always make it. We're all in this together. We're all in this human experience together. And once we start realizing that and we can figure out what we have in common, then we can, tackle any obstacles that we may perceive. Not trying to get all preachy about it, but from there, I was reacquainted with the justice system, the law, and it reignited my interest that I had in high school to go to law school. Went to law school, Georgia State University. I got my law degree as well as a Master of Public Administration from the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies at the same time. Came back, and since I've been back, I've been working. I've been a defense attorney. I take 95% of all my defense work is appointed to me by the system, the judges, or the public defender's office. I've been a prosecutor in several of the city courts around the city. I've been a guardian in Loudoun County Juvenile Court. I've advocated and been appointed and worked with approximately 200 youth, 150 to 200 youth in Chatham County Juvenile Court. And most importantly, or just as importantly, I'm a judge now. I am one of the municipal court judges in Garden City Municipal Court, Pooler Municipal Court, Port Wentworth Municipal Court. I've also sat as a judge in Chatham County Juvenile Court, and I sit regularly on a part-time basis in Bryan County State Court. All in all, I've sat in 6 courts across this region, our community, approximately 90 different times, and I've presided over 7,000 cases, give or take. And those cases have been initial appearances, bond hearings, preliminary hearings, probation revocation hearings, bench trials, and motion hearings. The only thing I haven't done as a judge is a jury trial, and only because there's no jury trials in the courts I sit yet. So I've done everything that I could have done in those courts. That's who I am, and that's a brief synopsis of my history. What's my platform? I think my platform is the only platform any judge should have, and that's to ensure equal justice under the law. Without equal justice under the law, the justice system doesn't work for everyone. And when it doesn't work for everyone, it doesn't work for anyone. And I know you've heard me say that multiple times across different meetings or get-togethers that you've seen me in, because to quote Mark Twain, when you tell the truth, you have nothing to remember. Right. It is what it is. That's what I believe. There is no other higher calling than a judge than to ensure that everyone that comes into the courtroom is treated equally. It doesn't mean the outcomes are equal. It does not mean that there are predetermined results. It means that every single person will receive equal consideration, regardless of where they are from, regardless of with whom they associate. Quite frankly, equal justice under the law isn't bound by county lines, city limits, or zip codes. It is equal justice under the law, and that's my platform. Every program that I might want to instill, every directive that I may want to order, it's all with that goal in mind, and everything else is irrelevant unless that objective is the goal. And so that's who I am. That's a brief experience, my brief experience, which isn't brief, and then what my platform is. That was a lot of talking.
Yeah, and so with your platform and your background and experience, you told us a lot about who you are. Of that, what do you think stands out the most in terms of what sets you apart from the opponents in the race, if you will?
So what sets me apart is that I haven't
makes you most qualified, I should say.
What makes me most qualified is my comprehensive background. I haven't only done one thing. Not that there's anything wrong with doing one thing. If a jack of all trades, right? My grandmother used to say, a jack of all trades is a master of none. But the rest of the quote is, sometimes better being a master of one, right? I have striven to make myself available to do a multitude of things because I want to serve in as many ways as possible. What sets me apart and makes me the most qualified is the fact that I have, from start to finish, from being involved in criminal cases, from a police officer, a prosecutor, a defense attorney, and a judge. Juvenile or recorder's court is traffic court. It handles all ordinances in the city and county, city of Savannah and unincorporated Chatham County. It can dispose of all misdemeanor crimes. Misdemeanors are 12 months in jail or less, up to $1,000 in fine. And it handles preliminarily all felonies. A recorder's court judge cannot deal with issues of bond for murder, rape, armed robbery, and a series of other crimes. So any insinuation out there in the community that, I'm going to deny bonds as a recorder's court judge for people charged with murder, you can't even address that, right? You're just saying things for people to make them feel good when you don't even have that power. You do have the power to consider bond for other issues. And when you consider bond as a judge, there's primarily 4 areas that you consider. Whether someone is a significant risk to flee, not show up to court, whether someone is a significant risk to commit another crime in the community, whether someone is a significant risk to a particular victim or the person involved in that case, or whether someone is a particular risk of harm to the community in general. But apart from that, you get down more nitty-gritty with, if somebody's already out on bond for a violent offense, you take additional considerations into play when figuring if you're going to give that person a bond. Similarly, if somebody's already out on bond for a domestic violence case, or if it's the first domestic violence case, there are additional considerations that have to go into effect. All that to say, having been a police officer, a prosecutor, defense attorney, and a current judge, having presided over 7,000 cases, that gives me the ability, when I see a case, not to have cookie cutter solutions to know how to deal with it, but I can deal with whatever's thrown at me in a courtroom. The same way as when I was a police officer on River Street, the things that used to be said to me, I don't get rattled by commentary. I don't get rattled by tense situations. I've been in those situations. So a couple of lessons, I think what I've learned in my experience that has assisted me and helped me as a judge is, so in my career as a police officer, I arrested approximately 150 people. Every single one of those individuals will remember me the rest of their life. I was a person who took them to jail. That will stick with them. I had to remember when I was a police officer that they weren't just a number, that they were a person with whom I was being involved and would have an impact on their life. So I treated everyone with whom I encountered with dignity and respect, because even if someone is accused of committing a violation of the law, that then does not mean they are not worthy of being treated as a human being. They can be held accountable if that's what is determined, but they can still be treated with dignity and respect because it's a reflection of you just as much as them, how you treat others. I've carried that with me as a judge, that sometimes I'm on a docket and 200 people will come before me that day. That shouldn't just be, oh, you're one of 200, right? Let's focus on your case. What has happened in your case? What has been alleged? Can it be proven? And deal with it, because we've all gotten speeding tickets. I've gotten speeding tickets. We all have had some interaction with a court system in some way. If not, that's awesome. But you get geeked up. You get prepared. You're ready to go to court. You're ready to get your side of the story out there. You're ready to let the judge know what's going on. And you get there and you see it. Sometimes people don't even get to say a word. They don't have their day in court. And if you haven't been heard by a judge or had an opportunity to address what's been accused, have you had your day in court? No, you haven't. And so a judge, you have to remember that everybody that comes into a courtroom, regardless of the circumstances or what's been alleged, deserves to be treated with dignity and respect as an individual, regardless of what happens. Again, that doesn't mean just because you treat someone with dignity and respect, you're just going to let their case go out. Nor does it mean you're going to throw them in jail. It means you're going to treat them like a human being, regardless of what the outcome is. And never more important did I have that lesson taught to me than when I was a cop, as I've said before. One time I arrested someone, and then I ran into that person in Walmart 2 days later because I shop at Walmart. And that person we encountered, they said hello, I said hello, and we went about our way. Had I treated that person anything less than, that interaction could have been problematic for me because they were with a lot of their friends and I was by myself, but I didn't. And so I trusted that when I interacted with folks after encountering them as a police officer, at the very least, they could say I was respectful, right? And I hope to have the same thing happen when I, sit as a judge.
And that's the theme that stands out as I listen to you talk. At the end of the day, good, bad, indifferent, people just want to be treated fairly. And even if that fairness or on the other side of fairness is punitive, they want to be treated fairly. And so as I think about Recorder's Court, I think of my position as Alderwoman at Large for Post 1 of the City of Savannah. I know that the Recorder's Court is under the purview of the City of Savannah. And it's problematic for me when I walk into Recorder's Court. Fortunately, as a guest or a visitor, if you will, I've had my time. Oh my God. No, but I worked as an advocate for victims of domestic violence in the district attorney's office. And so I cut my teeth on Recorder's Court as an advocate, working directly in the courtroom, helping to navigate the system for our survivors, for our victims, as well as informing them of upcoming court appearances. But one thing that stands out so much, and I feel like this is more of my job than a your job. When I look at the audience, when I look at the individuals who fill the pews within that courtroom, over 95+% of those individuals are African American. And these are individuals in court for, as you laid out, mostly traffic citations or violations. And we have some other misdemeanor offenses and some felonious acts that uh, come into the purview of recorder's court as well. But it troubles me because I know that these are not the only individuals who are committing crime. And so that's where we start to see that we have a structural, foundational issue that's problematic when it comes to fairness from the place of arrest. And when I listen to you, I listen to your background and your experience, the scope and the depth of your interaction within our criminal justice system as a police officer and the judicial positions you've had. It makes you very, very suitable for this work. And so, from your eye, I just want to have you sort of weigh in on what it is that you see before you, and if and how do you intend to address it?
So in my time as um, in my time on the bench in the several courts that I've sat, I've also observed that uh, the demographics that come before me as a judge, and as a judge, um, I'm there and I'm sitting on the bench when individuals come in. I don't pick and choose who comes into the courtroom. I am presented with cases and deal with them as they are presented. I do know that as a judge, the only way that you can effectively neutralize any um, biases that may exist in the application and prosecution of crimes is to ensure that the people that come into court, again, it sound like a broken record, are treated equally, are treated fairly. And again, those equally and fairly does not dictate an outcome. It does not mean that because someone was fined $200, the next person who might be convicted or pled guilty of committing the same offense, speeding ticket, is also fined $200. Fines are not the end all be all of the criminal justice system. There are a multitude, or there's a variety of ways to, quote, hold people accountable if someone, in fact, needs to be held accountable. And so, as a judge, when you are presented with what appears to be a situation where there may be some unequal application of the prosecution of violations of law, the only way you can deal with it again is to ensure that no matter who walks in the door, those people have their day in court, regardless of the outcome. And many times when you hear someone's background and story, their disposition, their result could be drastically different than someone else. And and a casual observer might say, that's not fair. You can't do so-and-so for person A, but so-and-so for person B. Well, yes, you can, because that's real life. And real life doesn't mean that everybody has the same outcome. The whole point of a court system is to try to never have people come back to court, right? So what I try to do, for example, is I see a lot of tickets for driving with a suspended driver's license, for example. And as a judge, I could find somebody guilty of that and resuspend their license, or do what I normally do, which is, if they plead guilty, can you get your driver's license? And if so, go get it. And I'll give them the time. If that's 60 days, 90 days. And guess what? In my court, when I'm the judge and somebody goes and gets their driver's license and rectifies that situation, more often than not, the outcome results in a way that does not incur additional fines, because a lot of times it takes money to go get that driver's license back. So if you tell someone to go get their license and they pay $500 to get their license back, and now you're going to turn around and fine them $300-400, that's now $900 for individuals that may or may not have the ability to go without $900. And so as a judge, you take that into consideration. You can't, it's illegal to impose unreasonable fines, but it's more than that. It's more than just, the law is the law and you have to follow what the law is. But sometimes when you dig deeper and you really get to the point of, why are we in this court? Well, we're here because of this situation. If you can rectify it, which would then allow this person not to have to come back, then we have found a just solution. So to get to your point of the disparity that may be perceived and may actually exist, as a judge, the only way to deal with disparities is to ensure that people have equal access to the law, to to legal remedies such as lawyers, information. You can't provide that information as a judge, but you can give folks additional time to go get that information. And you make sure that they have their day in court the same as others, and any consequence that may come down, if it were to come down in those situations, that it's equal. It's an equal justice under the law mindset that can, as a judge, like I said, you don't get to pick who comes into the court, but you can find a way to make sure that the right way to deal with cases once they're in your courtroom. I hope that answered your question.
So, yes, it did. And it sounds
Okay.
like your response is essentially to deal with it on a case by case basis, and in terms of extending some liberality to people who come before you, if there's flexibility for you to give them a chance to mitigate the situation.
Can I add something as well?
Sure.
Recently, I think I'm just looking at my email, May the 1st, yesterday. The last couple of weeks, campaigns are all about it. Sometimes people reach out, hey, we would like to interview to see if we want to endorse you, right? You mentioned endorsements at the start. I interview with a group called the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys. And on Sunday, they came out and they're officially endorsing my campaign for a Recorder's Court judge. Because
you heard it here first. You heard it here first on Kandily Kesha.
Yes. Yes, I haven't told anybody else about it, mostly because I'm still trying to process how awesome that is. I'm honored that after having an in-depth discussion that having heard the exact same words, that shockingly my objective and goal to have equal justice under the law fits what that amazing organization, their platform and their vision, and that is to treat everyone equally. And so I'm not just talking the talk, I'm walking the walk. And most importantly, for people in this race, Kesha, Alderwoman Gibson Carter, you don't have to worry about the kind of judge I'm going to be. Sometimes candidates will say things in one room, go into another room and say something completely different because they want to say things that people want to hear. You will literally hear me say the same thing over and over and over. And quite honestly, the kind of judge I am now, the kind of judge I have been these last several years for these 7,000 cases, that is the exact same kind of judge I'm going to continue to be, period. I heard Mr. Rhodes earlier on your radio show say that he wants to be elected, and if not, he has a blessed life. I have the same sentiment. I want to be elected to Recorder's Court judge position because I think I have the comprehensive background experience that can do great things because, I can do just things and the best that I can. But if for some reason it doesn't happen, I love my life. I have an amazing wife. I have 3 amazing children. I love my work. I love fighting for people's rights. I love advocating for children. And if I get to continue to do that, that's an amazing life. I still get to be a judge in these other courts. I still get to do the things that drives me, which is make sure that people's rights are protected, that those who can't advocate for themselves have been advocated for, and ensure equal justice under the law when I have the opportunity to sit on the bench. But I know that as a judge in Recorder's Court, I can have that in a more full-time basis to make sure things are done the right way. Because I've seen it done the right way. I've seen it done the wrong way from a variety of angles. And I know that if elected on May 24th, I will do things the right way. And I can't make promises as outcomes, but I can make promises that I will do everything in my power to justify the support that I've gotten and work hard to earn the support that I might not yet have.
Well, thank you so much. And I always like to take time to educate our constituency and our listeners in terms of what we are presented with and what's going on in our community. And so with regard to what's in your world of Recorder's Court, we know that we essentially have Recorder's Court, we have State Court, and we have Superior Court. And individuals should know. I want you to just kind of walk us through that process. When you go into to Recorder's Court, that is essentially your first court appearance, which is oftentimes called a preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes,
Then
ma'am.
from
So
there,
yes.
you go to, you either get bound up to State Court or Superior Court if it's a felonious act. How just give us a little quick Recorder's Court 101 for dummies.
Okay, well, sometimes I have to think about it too. So you have higher courts, like higher, superior, and state, and you have lower courts, in this case, Recorder's Court. So Recorder's Court is essentially the gateway to the courthouse. That's the easiest way to remember it. You don't go anywhere else until you go through that gate, which is Recorder's Court. And you got the gatekeeper, which is the judge. So Recorder's Court judge is the gatekeeper to the gateway to the courthouse. If it's a traffic ticket, you go through Recorder's Court. If it's resolved there, it's resolved there. If not, it goes up. to state court. Same with all other misdemeanor charges, everything from battery to littering to assault to some theft charges, shoplifting. Those all can be resolved in recorder's court, but if they're not, they can elevate or go up to state court. Same with superior court, except that recorder's court can't resolve it, but you can have preliminary hearings, you can have bond hearings, you can have readdress bond if it's denied, and if it's determined that there's probable cause to support the charges after a preliminary hearing, the case would then go up to superior court. Now, when it comes to ordinances like code violations in the city and county, recorder's court is where it's at. That has the jurisdiction to handle those cases completely. And so recorder's court, again, it's easy to think of it as one, traffic court, and two, the gateway to the courthouse when it comes to criminal matters. You are more likely, you, your friends, your family, me, we're all more likely to appear in recorder's court than any other court because you're less likely to actually bind your case up on a traffic ticket. Most times, if people are fighting a traffic ticket, they go to state court and they resolve it with a jury trial potentially. But they can resolve it in recorder's court as well, even if they want to fight it. So a little 101 for recorder's court. It's traffic court, and it's the gateway to the courthouse. You don't go anywhere else until you go through that court.
Well, thank you for explaining that process because even as a person who worked within the court system and the in and out of the corridors of the courthouse, entering recorder's court or any court can be very, very intimidating, even if you are accustomed to it. So we appreciate your being on the show tonight, sharing your platform, giving us more information about you and what you could bring to recorder's court as a judge. And we want to extend to you an opportunity to give us any parting words before we close out the show. But once again, we bid best wishes to you. And you can also put in our chat information as it relates to your website or how people can make contact with you or donate to your campaign.
Yes, ma'am. Well, again, thank you, Alderwoman, for giving me this platform to speak. It's a down ballot position. So a lot of times when we say that, that means you have to go down the ballot to find my position. But I mean, when you get a traffic ticket, with all due respect to all the other positions, when you get a traffic ticket, you don't go to your state senator, you don't go to your congressman, you don't go to your governor, you go to recorder's court. That has a direct impact on whether you're going to have whether you're going to have a fine if you're found guilty. It just, these are the jobs, your position, my position, that affect our daily lives. They're so important.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Rhodes and his position, that's our children. These are important positions. So I implore, I urge, I beg, May 24th is election day. You can vote early starting today up until the 20th. Go vote. Do your research and vote. If you don't vote, you lose your voice, because if you don't vote, your voice is not heard.
Right.
HuffmanforJudge.com, period. It has all my contact information. You can get to my Facebook page. You've seen my signs all over town. I'm sure I have a lot. I have, I look like a cone head in them, but they're everywhere.
You actually are getting some free advertisement.
Oh, I think, are you talking about another
attorney?
Yes, yes. It's a.
Do you get that?
No,
I do double take every time I see the Brown Firm ad.
Yes.
Billboard.
My children, we drive by and goes, Daddy. I'm like, that's not me. Oh, look, Harry Brown. He has a firm in town, and so every time I would go see clients and I would walk in, I would hear heavy hitter, and I'm like, well, that's not me. But I'll tell him you said hello next time I see him, right?
Do you know him?
We've met once. I don't know him.
Okay.
My practice predominantly in juvenile advocacy and criminal defense. And so he and I haven't had the opportunity to run into each other much, but I have heard that and I've seen it. And if it causes people to take a double take, well, then they've thought about me. And
I certainly have more than one time. So it's working for you for whatever it's worth. Listen, I appreciate you stopping by tonight and talking to my audience and letting them know who's going to be on the ballot and more about the person who will be there. And we will see you, I'm sure, somewhere around between now and May 24th as Mr. Rhodes acknowledged, early voting is happening now. And so the best thing to do is to get out early and often and vote. We know that a lot goes on, but there is nothing more important than exercising your civic duty and participating in the political process. And so,
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
A lot on this campaign trail, I've heard a lot about the us versus them mentality. So it's not us versus them. We are all us. We are all them. Because as a judge, I don't get to choose who comes in the courtroom. I give everybody equal treatment. And so I urge everybody we've got to get out of this us versus them mentality, because I've a long time abandoned that kind of mentality. It's not productive. And as a judge, it's not appropriate. And so I know your viewers would probably agree with that sentiment. I hope they do. And I hope they check me out and vote for me, no matter what vote, but vote for Joe Huffman.
Well, listen, thank you again for stopping by. We appreciate you and bid you well in the election. And we will see you somewhere in the community.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Take
Bye,
care,
everybody.
Bye-bye. Listen, Savannah, it has been a pleasure being with you again on this Monday evening. A lot has gone on. I want to encourage you. I don't want to relive it or to revisit it. But what I want you to do is to go and watch your local City of Savannah City Council meetings. You can pull them up on Facebook. You can go back in the archives of our website at savannahga.gov, or you can go to YouTube. And if I'm not mistaken, you can actually catch the meetings a couple of days post meeting on our Savannah Government TV. It is important that you get it for yourself. Unfortunately, you do not get in real time or right time information as it happens on our city council from our local media. So it behooves you as a tax-paying citizen to plug in and engage. Listen to how your dollars are being spent. Listen to the issues that are plaguing our community and how they are being responded to. I want to again preface, I've been receiving a lot of calls about the Rock and Roll Marathon. I received a lot of calls about the MLK parade. We want to remind the citizens that we are being guided by an individual who exhibits tyrannical behavior. And a lot of the decisions that are made, I don't know or have any information related to those decisions until you know. And so while we are and are supposed to be a part of a democratic process, it's just not happening right now. And so I had nothing to do with canceling the Rock and Roll Marathon or MLK Day. That was a unilateral decision that was done by the mayor of Savannah. And what I do want to add, from what I do know in terms of why the marathon was canceled, and why the information that's not being shared with you. The fact of the matter is, in tandem to residents that were adversely impacted by the marathon, them weighing in certainly had something to do with it, but it's not very often that this administration listens to what the residents have to say. So I would take that with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, we are still under staff with our police department, over 100 police officers. And I am pretty much certain that that had a great deal to do with the cancellation of the marathon, and that we just do not have the capacity where security is concerned for that event. And that's something that everybody should be concerned about, even those who would be participating. But what I do know, as opposed to canceling this event without the full council of our city representatives, without talking to the public and having them weigh in on it, albeit the Victorian Neighborhood Association and the downtown Residents Association did weigh in. We know that there are opportunities if we sit at the table and have a conversation. We also know that the West Side community were very much concerned about continuing the marathon, in that there were no economic benefit to having the inconvenience that the marathon would bring. And so, in my mind, the thought would be, how do we come to a meeting of the minds of sorts? How do we reason together? How do we work together? Rather it be changing the routes, incorporating economic drivers, assuring that our businesses are not as adversely impacted, assuring that our businesses are benefiting or deliberately driving, intentionally creating opportunities for our businesses. What was it that we could have done? And unfortunately, we will never know that, because you, our public, was not given the opportunity to weigh in. And so we always have to make a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent. We always have to make a decision. But as a leader, I am mindful that decisions without the voice of the people are not decisions that represent the people. We further are continually concerned about crime in our community. Crime is reported as on the rise, but crime was never low. We have continually increased in the number and the level of crime and criminal element that runs rampant in this community. And we have done so consecutively now for 2.5 years within this administration. You have more African American men and boys dying on the watch of a majority African American council. We have more violent crime, property crime, person to person crime ever in the history of our city. And while we know that the pandemic is often thrown to in terms of why all of this is happening, what I want to say to you as citizens, tax-paying citizens of the city of Savannah, we have the bearing capacity financially to make all of this right. Unfortunately, we do not have the political will to do what needs to be done. And so, as your Alderwoman at Large for Post 1 of the city of Savannah, I intend to continue to keep government honest, to keep pushing and pressing for those things that will make a difference. And somehow along the way, sometimes it happens. But until then, we will continue to do what it is that we do best, and that is to work on behalf of the citizens of Savannah. And so we want to bid to you now farewell and good night, and to let you know that you're always in my heart and that I love you, Savannah. Good night.
Like this.